The story that I'll be talking about today is one of Australia's most disturbing unsolved cases, involving a postal worker that probably wishes he never went to work that day, because what he found will stay with him for the rest of his life. So hopefully this case will get solved soon, as it's being reopened at the moment with DNA testing to actually find out who this little baby was, and hopefully find out who the mother was as well. Now, just a warning, viewer discretion is advised for this story. Hello and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. If you don't know what's going on here, I'm a horror artist and I like to draw what I talk about in the videos. Now, I love scary facts, true crime, anything to do with aliens, UFOs, conspiracy theories, all that sort of stuff. And I also love to draw. So what I do is I combine all that into my channel and hopefully bring you a unique experience across these genres. Now, I try my best to bring you the most accurate and well-researched information that I find on the internet. But if you do find that something feels a little bit amiss, or I have missed out something, please let me know in the comment section below. I try to compile the most consistent information that I find across the board of all the information, and I put it into the video. Now, if you do like any of the art that I do in these videos, I do have the prints available on my Redbubble store. Not everything is there. I'm still getting around to uploading all the art that I do onto my Redbubble store, so just be patient, keep checking back, and it will be there eventually. With that being said, let's get on with the video and let's get on with the drawing. Nearly 60 years ago, on the 11th of May 1965, at a Darwin post office on Nuckley Street, a foul, rotting smell was coming from one of the unclaimed parcels. Due to this disgusting stench, one of the post office workers, John Polishuk, decided to cut it open to get to the bottom of this foul smell, and he wished he didn't. The parcel had arrived at the post office on the 3rd of May, which means it had been sitting there for 8 days and was starting to go soggy, sag, and liquid was seeping from the bottom. Inside the bag, John found a decomposed, dead newborn baby boy, naked, still with the umbilical cord attached, with a stocking wrapped around its neck with nothing else, no letter, no anything. John contacted police immediately. The police began their investigation, and it was believed that the parcel was sent from Russell Street, Melbourne Post Office by the return sender details of J.F. Barnes, 2 Woolridge Avenue, Mentone, Victoria. The parcel was addressed to J. Anderson in Darwin. Now, the 2 Woolridge Avenue address does not exist, and it seems that the name and the address were both fabricated. A medical examiner looked over the deceased baby boy and found that the baby was born, took a few breaths, and then possibly the mother ended the baby's life with the stocking that was wrapped around its neck 3 to 4 times. The neck was severely compressed by the stocking, so it appears that the baby had been murdered and then sent 3,540 kilometres away to another city and state, wrapped in recent Melbourne newspaper sheets of the time. The police investigations all seemed to come to dead ends, as no one could find the sender or who it even could be, or who J. Anderson was that the parcel was mailed to, as there was apparently quite a few J. Andersons in Darwin at the time, and not having a physical address made it harder, as the parcel was only addressed to the Darwin post office. So, where was the mother, and how was her well-being? This became the focus of the case, as people tried to understand why someone, especially a mother, could do this. There were just no suspects at all, and the case just faded away pretty quickly a few weeks after the case was reported in the newspapers. But now retired police officer Denver Marchant said that case still haunts him today, and sometimes when he closes his eyes, he is at that post office all over again investigating this brutal case. Theories floated around saying that the mother must have had postnatal depression to do this. Another theory was that the mother sent the father, the dead baby, to get back at him in a revenge plot, just for leaving them. Also, another theory was a husband sent the baby to his wife's lover. but maybe it was the mother's way of disposing of the child she didn't want by having it in a postal limbo for someone else to discover, or maybe she thought it would decay with no smell detection wrapped in the paper and package at a remote and small city post office so no one would catch on to who she was. A recent theory was that the baby was mailed to former AFL player Jimmy Anderson. Apparently, Jimmy came forward after reading about the case as he was in Darwin at the time of the baby being mailed there, and he was going to supply DNA for the case. Jimmy played for the Darwin Buffaloes and then the WAFL club West Perth for 2 seasons. He died in April of 2017. His daughter Amelia claims that her father was a ladies' man and was unfaithful to their mother, and feels that the baby was her brother, but mainly wants closure for her family. Now, for yous playing at home that don't know what AFL is, AFL stands for Australian Football League. Now, it's kind of like a rugby type game, but here in Australia, a lot of us call AFL aerial ping pong because it seems like the football seems to be up in the air more than anything. And yes, these guys in this industry, in this football industry, are notorious for playing up and being complete womanizers and doing some things that they shouldn't be doing. The baby was apparently buried in the Jingley Cemetery in Darwin, but the remains have been exhumed for advanced DNA testing that we have nowadays to hopefully get to the bottom of this cold case. Even though this was a very isolated case and a disturbing one at that, it's not the first time kids have been sent in the mail. But don't worry, these kids were alive. In 1913, the regulations on mail were vague when the postal services upped the weight of parcels to over 1.8 kilos, so people started taking advantage of these services and mailing their kids to other family members for visits. It wasn't overly common, but it did happen, as paying for stamps to post a child was cheaper than buying a ticket on a passenger train. Back in the day, people knew their mailman, so he wasn't a stranger when they handed their kids over to him. In 1913, an Ohio couple sent their infant son for 15 cents and handed him over to the mailman that dropped him off at his grandparents' house about 2 kilometers away. In February 1914, 6-year-old May Pierce Stoff's parents sent her nearly 100 kilometers away to her grandparents' house via railway mail train. The Idaho family paid 53 cents for a stamp that was put on her clothing. The mailman that accompanied her all the way was fortunately a relative. After the Postmaster General Albert S. Burleson heard about this, he banned all postal workers from accepting humans as mail, but this didn't stop people immediately from doing it. Not long after the ban, a woman mailed her 6-year-old daughter from Florida to her father's home in Virginia. It was 1,158 kilometers, and that was the longest recorded trip for a child to travel via the mail service, and only cost 15 cents. But in August 1915, the last alleged child was sent in the mail after the story made the news and the regulation was put in place firmly. The alleged last child ever mailed was 3-year-old Maud Smith, who was mailed nearly 80 kilometers away by her grandparents in Kentucky to her sick mother. After this, applications in 1920 were rejected to send kids via the mail. So that was a bit of a comical twist halfway through from the initial story that I started off with, just to sort of give everyone a little bit of a breather from the absolute sheer disturbing story of this case that remains unsolved. Now, getting back to the first story, what do you think caused the woman to mail her dead murdered child to Darwin? And what do you think about mailing living children via post? Let me know your thoughts on what I talked about today in the comments below, because I'd be very curious to know what you guys think and what other theories are out there about this first disturbing case on what happened to this poor child and what happened to the mother and why she did this, and who was she mailing it to. And like, not only has it affected that police officer, but it also would have affected that postal worker that found the kid initially. And I can imagine what he would have went through as well after finding that. So it's affected, like, it's been like a butterfly effect for a lot of people with this particular case. So the illustration that I decided to do for this video today was this vision that I had of this sort of horrible demonic creature woman who's just given birth to her, little demon kid, and the umbilical cord is extremely long, and she's got it weaving through one hand, and she's got the kid in the other, and there is blood everywhere because she's just given birth, and she's got this crazy look on her face. And you can sort of like run with this in so many different ways. Like, it looks like she's joyous to have this kid, or you could take this look as she is completely deranged and crazy, and you can sort of see that what she's going to do to this poor child, this poor thing that these creatures are. So this was just the vision that I got, and I went with it and I drew it, and it is kind of disturbing. Could be a lot disturbing depending on your vision on this particular drawing. And I also really wanted to portray the look on this creature's face of someone or something that was not in its right mind at all when it basically did what it did to this child. So I sort of wanted to portray that with this case, that this woman who did this was probably suffering from something, suffering from some sort of mental illness brought on by the pregnancy, or maybe she had been suffering from it all her life, and all the hormones and everything going through her body, that would have really taken a toll on her if she was potentially mentally unstable as it is. So yeah, that's what I wanted to portray in my picture. That's basically the essence of this picture that I drew, this illustration that I drew. So hopefully you enjoyed this video today. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. Dislike it, I really couldn't care less, because any interaction that you do with my channel helps the algorithm to find other people who would like to watch this kind of content. And hopefully you stick around and watch how the illustration turned out, or whatever is left of this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.